Got it. All right. I forgot to turn the microphone on. How about now? Can you hear me? We had total silence for a minute. Because the old coach is here trying to figure out how to push the buttons, how to flip the switches, how to plug in the doodads. Are we back? Can you hear me? Perfect. Sweet. If Harry says it's perfect, then it's perfect. All right, awesome. All right, welcome to this edition of Q&A with the Coach Live. So if you have questions, post them in the comments, and we'll answer some questions. I've seen a couple of questions floating around here. What do I think about Aikido? I made a whole video about what I thought about Aikido, and it made a lot of people mad. So go check that one out. Get mad. Write me an angry comment, and we'll see how that goes. Ooh, we got a super chat already from Scott Sullivan, MMA, who says this. Ramsey, I was asked a question about Christianity and fighting. I did a video on my channel. Is it wrong or against Jesus for Christians to fight? Okay. Well, we understand in Christianity and also Judaism and most of the other world religions and the non-religious secular humanists, thou shalt not kill is a pretty good idea, right? But never once did Jesus say, or did the Torah read, thou shalt not participate in a boxing match or in an MMA fight. Thou shalt not train. These are things the Bible doesn't say. I made a few videos on this topic, and a lot of people say, it's a contradiction that you, Ramsey Dewey, are a religious man, and you were a fighter, and you train in martial arts, and you train others in martial arts. This is evil, and this is hypocrisy. How dare you? To which my simple reply is, I'm not a pacifist. My religion is not pacifism. My religion is the worship of Jesus Christ. It is not pacifism. And people will often retort and say, but Jesus was a pacifist. Was he? Was that the message of Christianity? Pacifism? I think not. I think it has a little bit more of taking Christ's name upon yourself, keeping his commandments, walking the path that he laid out for us. And no, not once did he say, thou shalt not get out there and train. So that's what I have to say about that. All right. We got a question here about a dislocated shoulder. I've had one of those. Pascal K says, Coach, I dislocated my shoulder this summer, and I was told to never wrestle again or it will be ruined forever. I'm currently focusing on kickboxing, but MMA was my dream. Any advice? Ooh, that's a pretty extreme judgment given by a doctor. Now, I don't know the extremity of your injury there. I had a partial shoulder dislocation after a couple of years of rehabilitation. I'm okay. I'm fine. It was rough for a while, man. It was rough. Never give up on rehabilitation. Make rehab and prehab a way of life, man. That's important. I always hear stories about guys who are told things like, you will never walk again. You will never do this or that again. And they're like, I'll show you. And then they do those things again. And they're okay. Now, does that mean that you'll be able to do it? I don't know. But it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. This is not medical advice for you. What I'm telling you is, do not give up on life because somebody told you that you are not able to do something that you want to do right now. I'll tell you a little story. It was September 4th, 1996. And this was my freshman year in college. And late in high school, I learned how to play some instruments, the clarinet and the saxophone and the trumpet and the French horn. I taught myself all these things, and people in high school kind of looked at me like I was a prodigy because I was able to learn all these instruments pretty quickly at a later age than most kids in school bands learn this stuff. And so I go to college thinking I'm going to major in music. I love jazz. I'm going to audition for this university jazz band. So I did. It was my birthday. I forgot all about my birthday because I was so focused on auditioning for this jazz band. And so I wait for this audition for like 8 hours. I'm waiting in the hall practicing this music piece, and I go in there and I biff it so hard, and I just fail, and it's bad, and I know it's bad, and I know they know it's bad. And the guys screening everybody at the audition, they just kind of look at me like they're searching for kind words to say. And one of those guys looked at me and he said, "You know, music doesn't have to be your career. It can be a great hobby." And those words stung me to the core. No! How dare you? I was a prodigious student of music. I was going to go places. I was going to be someone. And it was like they just stripped it all away. But there was a certain wisdom there, which is this thing you love right now doesn't have to be the way you make money. Now, I make music almost every day. I play instruments almost every day. I got guitars over there and there and there. And every time you listen to one of my videos that has music in it, that's music I made. That's original music. So technically, I am making money off of my music. Probably more money than a lot of music majors in college actually made in their life, man. So, why am I telling you this story? Because what seems super important right now, I'm not saying it's necessarily not important later, but there's a way that life will unfold if you stick to it. If you just keep getting out there and training in the ways that you are able, whether it's music or martial arts. Man, you can go places. Maybe you're going to be one of those success stories. Maybe you're going to be that guy who defies all expectations. And in spite of the doctor saying you'll never do it, you're going to do it and be an Olympian or something like that, or be a UFC champion, who knows? And maybe life will take you in a different direction, and that's okay. Just find the joy in the journey, man. What are the questions? Oh, we got a Mormon question here. Do you remember that day I did a live Q&A and everybody was asking me a Mormon question? Like, I have a Mormon question for you. Do I consider Mormon a derogatory word? I remember you talking about it, but I am unsure if I'm misinterpreting your explanation, by the way. We had an auto scroll and I lost it. Is Mormon a derogatory word? Kind of, not really. Mormon was the name of the principal author of the Book of Mormon, okay, which is one of the books of scripture used by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the official name of the church, the Church of Jesus Christ, not the Church of Mormon. But that's a mouthful, right? Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's 1,000,000 syllables, and when you say it in Spanish, it's twice as long, so it's easier for people to say Mormon, right? So what's derogatory about that? Well, you're taking the name of Christ out of the church, man. And I don't love that. Anyway, it was a nickname originally given to the church by enemies of the church, people who literally wanted to kill the Mormons and drive them out of the country. And eventually they did. Drove them into Mexico, which is now Utah, which is now the United States. Okay, we have a super chat from Will Rowell who says, play something. Play something. Play something. Let me see. Do I have any games on my phone? Yeah, man, I got Pac-Man. Got Pac-Man on my phone. I can play that. You, you want to see me play Pac-Man on my phone? I'm playing something. You probably meant music because I was talking about guitars earlier. But the way I'm situated right now, I'm not in a position to pick up a guitar or plug it in or mic it or anything like that. So that's you know what? You know what? Since you did send in a super chat, I will make a video in this next week where I play something. Where I pick up my guitar and I play. Okay? How's that, Will? I will not forget you. I will remember this request. But again, I'm not situated in this room to unpack one of the guitars, and I'm very limited on space here. But I will make a video. I will do that for you. I will do that. What other questions do we have? Do I have advice to sweep people in your open guard, MMA style more than BJJ style? Sweep people in your open guard. Well, MMA style would imply they can hit you and the elbows are free and you're not wearing a gi and you're shirtless and slippery. So, yeah, basically any sweep that accounts for those factors is going to be okay, right? If your sweep is one that allows the other guy to hit you repeatedly in the face, not a good sweep for MMA. If your sweep is one that requires grips on a uniform, not a good sweep for MMA. If your sweep is one you can do with minimal damage and maximum control, great, do that. Sweet, we got a super chat from Killer Bead01 who says, would increasing judges from 3 to 5 reduce controversial decisions? Do you think Paddy won his last fight? I did not see Paddy Pimblett's last fight. I heard it was controversial. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what the controversy or lack thereof was all about. But that's a very interesting idea, increasing judges from 3 to 5. That's fascinating. I've worked as a judge a lot, and it's always fascinated me when you have a good set of judges who really understand the sport, guys who are not just judges, weekend warriors or whatever, but they actually train, right? Or they fought, or both. And in this case, they're almost always on the same page. Like when you have fighters as judges, like former retired fighters who actively train and coach, this sort of thing, guys like me, when you have guys like that on the judges' panels, the score is almost always the same across the board. When you have people from radically different backgrounds, and maybe it is good to have people from different backgrounds, like maybe a striking coach in one corner and a jiu-jitsu coach in another, and I don't know, maybe some random dude who doesn't even train in the other. But then you're going to get some really flip-flop, biased, weird judging. So maybe more judges is a good thing. Maybe we do need 5 or 6 or 9. The problem is accommodating those judges. There's room around a cage or a boxing ring. Generally, we have the 3 judges in 3 corners. We have 2 groups of cornermen and coaches, one in the red corner, one in the blue corner. We have the timekeeper sitting very close or ringside. And then we also have the ring announcers sitting ringside. And if this is a show being broadcast simultaneously in multiple languages, you might have multiple groups of ringside commentators sitting ringside. And then you've got athletic commission people sitting ringside too. So there's only so much ringside space. So it would be interesting, maybe have as many ringside judges as you could, maybe 3 around the ring or the octagon, and then maybe 3 more watching through monitors from different angles, like each one has a different angle. That might be interesting. And then have some judges who can't hear the commentary from the commentators, because that does affect judging. It does. And it's ridiculous to think that it wouldn't. So if the commentators are very loud, and it's something everyone in the audience, including the judges, can hear, And they're talking up this guy. Oh, he's got knockout power in both hands. Oh, he got rocked. He's hurt. The judges are much more likely to think, oh, I'm blanking on the judging terms in English. What do we call that? That's a significant strike. Oh, mark that down. Yeah, give this guy some points. Give him the round. So yeah, I'm curious to see that. A big show like the UFC could definitely do that, and maybe they should. Man, I think you convinced me with your question. You didn't even have an argument. It was just a question. I think that's a good idea. Instantly, right now, I think that's a good idea. Let's have 5 or 6 or 7 or 9 judges, man. The UFC can afford that. But can they afford to pay off all of the judges? It's much easier to pay off 3 crooked judges than it is to find 9 crooked judges and pay all those guys off. Okay, what other questions do we have? A lot. Ooh. Ikaka, I hope I'm saying that right. Yakaka says, I wish I could bob and weave like Mike Tyson. Not a question, but an interesting statement. I hear a lot of questions like this. Yesterday, one of my students, he saw some videos on Nicolino Loce. They've been trending on YouTube lately. He was an Argentinian boxer. If you watch some highlight reels, you'll be like, wow, this guy's head movement is amazing. His defense is incredible. Man, he hardly ever gets hit. Amazing. Whoa. And he asked me, my student asked me, how do I fight like Nicolino Loce? How do I do defense like him? And he suggested this idea, well, what if you could combine the offensive prowess of Rocky Marciano and the defensive prowess of Nicolino Loce and combine them? And I said, well, in Fantasyland, that's a fun idea. But the reality is, Loce, his defense worked because of his game plan. And it's very, very simple. Hit the guy with a stiff jab, move slightly out of range. So the guy wants to hit you back, so he has to move toward you in a linear fashion, straightforward, in the most dangerous possible way in boxing, where you can slip off to the side and boom, clip him with a check hook off the line with 0 danger of getting hit. And Rocky Marciano's strategy, which was much more offensive, very much more akin to Jack Dempsey, Mike Tyson, these guys who went in for the kill, it doesn't work quite the same way. So you have to ask yourself before telling yourself, I want to move like Mike Tyson. I want to have defense like Loce. I want to have heavy hands like Jack Dempsey, etc. You got to ask yourself, what's my game plan? How do I plan to move, to program this guy to move the way that I want him to? Because that's what we're doing in a fight. We're programming the other guy to move the way that we need him to move to execute our game plan. Does the neck chop work? Who said that? I made a whole video about this, about karate chops to the neck. And any strike is going to hurt you to some degree. If you got some guy who can hit really hard, man, I was looking at a clip from the Ultimate Slap Fighting Championships, or whatever that's called, where they have these big giant Russian dudes slap each other until one gets knocked out or gives up. And this first round, the guy he basically hit him with the cuff of the wrist. It's the bone spur right here. You ever heard the term fisticuffs? Fists here, cuffs here. There's padding over the fists in boxing. There's no padding over the cuff in a boxing glove. So you can cheat, because this is dirty boxing. This is not legal in boxing, but you can clip a guy with a cuff, hit him straight with the bone, cut him up, knock him out, get the cuff like right there, which is what this slap fighter did. He hit him with the cuff right there, right at this little area under the chin right there, knocked him out with what to the untrained eye looked like a simple, really hard slap, but it was a bone spur digging into a very sensitive spot. Concussed that dude quite badly. So if you do a karate chop, you can do that same thing, absolutely. But that's not saying if you do a karate chop, that will always be the result. No, it's going to be highly variable. You can hit somebody with your best punch, and it might do nothing. Some guys can eat your best shot for breakfast and spit it right back out at you. What else do we have? Joel K says, could you take Icy Mike in a kickboxing fight? What if he had his flashlight and a jar of crunchy peanut butter? Oh, man. I'm going to meet Icy Mike next month. I don't know if you've heard of this. Rokas, the guy from the Martial Arts Journey channel, he's putting on what he calls the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, which it's kind of weird. It's a tournament of self-defense themed events. We don't know what the events are other than a couple of them. And the participants are myself, Rokas, Icy Mike from the Hard to Hurt channel, Jeff Chan from MMA Shredded, and Sensei Seth. So we're all going to compete against each other and against a bunch of random guys from a self-defense school in these various events. We don't know what they're going to be until they happen. So hopefully we'll have some downtime and maybe do some sparring, and then we can see what happens. We can see what happens if Icy Mike and I do some kickboxing, maybe. Again, hopefully we'll have enough downtime to do that. Solar Striker says, do you do tier lists on any styles? I hate tier lists, man. I hate tier lists. I absolutely loathe those internet tier lists that are so popular on YouTube. I did one of them once. Rokas from Martial Arts Journey invited me to do like a podcast, a discussion with him. And so I show up for the discussion. He says, we're doing a tier list. And it was like, okay, fine. What's the topic? Self-defense. My two least favorite things to talk about, self-defense and tier lists. But we made it through, and it was actually a pretty decent video. So go check that one out if you want an extra viewing experience and you want to listen to me talk about self-defense and martial arts for like an hour. But I hate tier lists. I hate them with a passion. Do I do them? No. Do you want a tier list? Let's do a tier list of tier lists. I don't understand the S tier thing, because when I was in school, S stood for satisfactory. That was like pity points. That was what teachers gave you in elementary school if your work sucked, but you didn't fail, and they felt bad about giving you a C or a D. So, I don't understand why all these tier lists start with an S. Maybe that's a European thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. But when I was in school, grade school, high school, university, the A was the top tier. So S is super from video games. Okay, neat. Neat. S is for sufficient. So I would put martial arts tier lists in the F tier. I hate them. Boo. Boo. Anyway, boo to tier lists. Okay, we have a super chat from Sunny C, who says, I once trolled Mike by asking, why is Ramsey Dewey better than you? His response was, better at what? Being tall? Because he's better at nothing else except maybe jujitsu. Mike is a confident man. Mike is a confident man. Better at nothing else. I enjoyed reading that. I enjoyed reading that. Should we make a tier list of, oh man, great. Another super chat from Landlord Harassment Channel. Thank you. Thank you for the super chats. Who says, your archenemy Ramsey Dewey, as opposed to Ramsey Dewey, which is me, has been beating people up in my neighborhood looking for you. But I refuse to give up your location. Please save us. Man, this is just like that part in The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. More so the books than the movies. There are a lot of differences between the books and the movies. I was thinking about this a lot lately. Where the Nazgul, the Black Riders, are looking for Baggins. That's the only name they have to go for. In the Shire, they have 2 words to go on. So they go to the Shire looking for Baggins. Now, there are lots of Bagginses in the Shire. And they go there and they start knocking on doors like, Baggins. And what other questions do we have? I seem to be on... what's going on here? How is COVID in Shanghai? COVID sucks. So I had COVID. I came down with COVID about a month ago and had a pretty bad case. I ended up fainting and falling through my shower. Like there's this glass shower wall thing, and I fell through that and broke the thing in 2 pieces and got a big gash on my butt. I was unconscious on the floor. I woke up what seemed to be hours later because it was light outside. I didn't realize that I had fallen through the shower. I got up, I went back to bed. My wife said, what was that big crash? I was like, well, what big crash? She went in the bathroom, saw the destruction, and said, what the heck, man? So, yeah, I lost like 12 kilos of body weight. So right now I'm feeling like absolute crap. So, yeah, man. Solar Striker says, serious question, are you afraid of the Communist Party? No. Why would I be afraid of the Communist Party? Have you ever shared your thoughts on Khabib as a fighter and as a coach? Well, I've never worked with him, so I don't know how his coaching prowess is or what his process is like. As a fighter, he's awesome. There you go. How much do you squat and deadlift? Well, since I had COVID, I went from deadlifting on the regular, like twice my body weight, to deadlifting next to nothing. I put a couple of 45s on the bar the other day, did about 10 lifts, felt lightheaded, and had to lie down for the rest of the day. So, COVID sucks, man. I don't even know how to describe it. I just feel like doing very simple things. I taught a kids class the other day, an online kids class. I was teaching a kids class online, and I was doing very little movement, and afterwards I was just dead for the rest of the day. I couldn't do anything. I had to lie down, man. It was bad. So, man, I've been COVID-free for weeks now, but I'm feeling it bad, to be honest. We got a super chat from Killer Bead001 who says, DKU versus Charlie Z 4-round boxing match. Who wins? Okay, here's what happens in the match. I'm going to call it for you. So DKU shows up. Charlie Z shows up. They're about to touch gloves. Charlie Z starts making some excuses, saying, "Hey, let's step outside and do this outside of the ring." Because Charlie Z, for some reason, is terrified of getting in the ring. He always wants to spar off, like out in the open mat somewhere. DKU would then get the referee to stop the match and give him a break for 2 minutes for an imaginary foul so he could catch his breath even before the fight has started. Charlie Z would then turn his back and then turn around and try to, and then sucker punch DKU. DKU would complain about a foul, and the referee would give DKU an additional 2-minute break. And then Charlie Z would run out of the ring and run off, post the footage on his YouTube channel and say that he won the fight. So that's how that would play out. All right, sweet. We got another super chat from C. James who says, I don't like that someone heavier than me could beat me. Yeah, nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. Guess what? Somebody smaller than you can beat you too. Somebody more technical than you can beat you too. Someone more aggressive than you can beat you too. There are a lot of people on this planet that can beat you on any given day. Man, some days you might have a bad day. You might be a world beater. You might be a UFC champion, but you might step outside and have a bad day, and some schmuck might be able to beat you, man. That's life. And you don't have to like that. You just simply have to accept it. I think part of the reason that the fraudulent institution that is the self-defense industry, which is the biggest fear-mongering nonsense out there, on a micro scale, not a macro scale. On a macro scale, we're looking at politics and what these people are doing as far as fear-mongering, war-mongering. But on the macro scale, as far as the individuals go, man, it's the self-defense industry. They prey on fear. They prey on your insecurity. Oh, there's a big guy out there, and he can beat you. But with my special techniques and my special training system, you will never lose. Yeah, man. Do I believe in the unbeatable fighter, says Curtis? No. Everybody's beatable. And if you keep fighting, no matter how good you are, eventually you will lose. Eventually you will lose. Remember Fedor Emelianenko? I'm paraphrasing something he said right there. Back when he was undefeated. When everybody was saying, Fedor will never lose. He's unbeatable. He's the best in the world. To that, Fedor responded, it is inevitable that I will lose. Because I will keep fighting. And eventually, when you keep fighting, you will lose. And if you haven't lost yet, that simply means you haven't fought enough for it to happen. Not that it never will or never would. So the self-defense industry sucks. And I want to talk about this a little bit. Hold on 1 second. I want to talk about this a little bit. About the fear-mongering of the self-defense industry. I do not walk around in fear. I don't. I used to as a teenager. As a child, I was terrified. I was terrified of the shadow ninjas that would jump out on the streets and beat me up, man. Sweet super chat from Ken Jitsuka. Just some kind words. No question right there. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. So I was terrified of this. So I started training in martial arts, not because I was terrified of the streets, but because I was getting beaten up at school. There were bullies at school who were physically abusing me, who were beating the crap out of me, who were beating me half to death. And I realized, when is the sidekick video coming out? I've made several videos about sidekicks on my channel. Go check them out. Just search Ramsey Dewey sidekick. You'll find them, man. You'll find them. They've been out for a while. So I decided, I'm going to learn martial arts. I'm going to be like Bruce Lee. I'm going to show them what's what. So I made this a way of life. But the more I did it, the more I realized, this isn't about self-defense. It never really was about self-defense. The self-defense industry is power fantasy. It is the enabling of power fantasy. It's not about making you feel more secure. It's about making you feel powerful. That's like a drug, man, and it's addictive. Power for the sake of power. Try to walk in New York City at night. Dude, I used to live in the slums of Argentina. in the slums of Buenos Aires, in Jose Sepas, Kilómetro 27. I've lived in much more dangerous places than New York. Yeah, I know there are gangs, there are killings, there are rough neighborhoods. Dude, I've lived half my life in third world countries. The United States of America is a first world country, man. For all of its problems, it's got that going for it. I am not afraid of death, is what I'm trying to tell you. There's one thing I fear, and that is God alone, and none else. Set your priorities straight, man. And that includes setting your fears straight. So if you're walking around in a dangerous neighborhood, afraid, oh no, I might die, that is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. That's a reflection of how you lived your life and how you are not at peace with death. I don't think Miyamoto Musashi was a religious man, but he said something brilliant. The code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. Everybody dies. Monks, noblemen, women, peasants. Everyone dies the same death. But the code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. So try walking around the streets of New York without being afraid for once. And when someone holds a gun at you and threatens to kill you if you don't do what they want, try not being afraid. I'll tell you a little story. The first time I had a gun pulled out on me, I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was in an Argentinian slum. I was walking down the street. A man pulls out a gun. And it's not like one of those Detroit urban survival training videos where it's right next to you and you even have a chance to touch that gun and disarm it. No, he's like 10 feet away, pointing this gun at me, and he says, "Dame un peso o te doy un tiro." Give me a peso or I will give you a bullet. I'll shoot you. And at first I didn't understand what he said. I kind of stopped. I was like, what? My missionary companion kept walking, and he said very loudly in Spanish for this man to hear and understand, "Shoot me. Shoot me in the back, and my blood will cry out against you in the last days for vengeance." And he kept walking without fear. And I looked at my mission companion and I walked after him. I learned a valuable lesson that day about fear. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do when somebody points a gun at you, because you might well get shot. We didn't. We were lucky. But I learned a valuable lesson about where to put your priorities of fear. Fear God and none else. Maybe this sounds preachy to you if you don't believe in God. And that's okay. That's okay. You're entitled to believe what you believe or not believe what you don't believe. But look, the valuable lesson I learned that day is I don't have to be afraid. Sometime later, another missionary that I knew was shot in the head. He was mugged. He had a backpack on, and the guy had the gun pointed at him. And he said, "Give me your money." The money was in the backpack. The missionary starts taking off the backpack. The gunman sees the motion, gets nervous, squeezes the trigger, boom, hits him in the head. He didn't die, but blood everywhere. The gunmen run off. He survives. I didn't see the shooting. I wasn't there. I saw the aftermath. I saw the blood. I saw his shirt. I remember seeing his shirt covered in all that blood. And it was shocking, yes. And at the same time, I realized doing what I'm doing right now could very well result in this. And getting mugged, getting chased down by people with weapons, getting accosted by violent people, seeing people shot and killed in front of me, seeing people beaten down, seeing gangs and violence. The type that I never could have imagined in North America. Man, I realized I'm not a tourist here. I'm a man on a mission, literally. And this was a very strange time in my life, I suppose. I had so many guns drawn on me as a missionary in Argentina. And since that first day where my mission companion simply walked away and said, "Shoot me in the back. Do it, and my blood will cry out for vengeance against you at the last day," I realized something. Everything in this world will try to kill you, and eventually it will, but you have a choice in how you're going to feel about that. You have a choice in what to fear, in whom to fear. Fear no one. Respect everyone. Fear God alone. Thanks for listening to my rant there. Maybe I'll go into more detail about it. We have a super chat from the Landlord Harassment Channel who says, "Ramsey, don't fear death. Death fears Ramsey Dewey." I'm not quite Chuck Norris, man. No, death will come for me. And when it comes, I will welcome it. Because I know in whom I have trusted. Solar Striker says, "When is the last time you competed in a WTF Taekwondo tournament?" Man, that was a long time ago. Man, I don't even remember, like early 2000s? Early 2000s, maybe? I did Taekwondo from like the 90s to the early 2000s. It was a long time ago, man. We got a lot of questions I don't really know the answers to, like what is my favorite Tekken character? I'm not very familiar with the Tekken cast. I played the game, but not enough to be familiar with the characters. Is Andrew Tate a good fighter? I don't know. I've never trained with him, and I haven't seen enough of his fights to give you an educated answer on that. Ro Jogan says, "Would you ever consider posting clips on your channel from your Q&As? You are dropping gems right now." Man, glad you like it. Glad that something I said was valuable to you. I do post some from some of my Q&As. I don't think I've ever clipped any of the live Q&As. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. What else do we have? Man, we got a bunch of religious questions, which is understandable because I just talked quite a bit about religious ideas. Andridge, can't pronounce the name. I'm sorry about that. Says, "What made or makes you believe in God? And what makes you choose to be in the LDS Church instead of another denomination or religion?" Because it's true. And I'm not saying that facetiously, man. What made me believe in God? Talking to him. Go have a conversation. Go have a lot of conversations with God. And let me know what he says. All right, sweet. We got an MMA question. Super chat from Killer Bead, who says, off the top of your head, what would your coaching strategy be for a 5x5 MMA fight? Oh, okay. Yeah, man. We've actually done this drill quite a bit in the gym where we have groups of multiple students compete against each other, spar against each other. And the winning strategy is pretty simple. And almost everybody gets this wrong. Almost everybody picks the biggest, toughest, strongest, most experienced guy and goes after him, and then they generally fail. The strategy is get rid of the easiest target as soon as you can. Take anybody out, anyone you can. It's generally going to be somebody smaller, weaker, less experienced. Take that guy out, because as soon as you can reduce the numbers from 5 to 4, you've already won. As soon as you take one guy out of the equation, the bigger team wins every single time. Try this drill out. If you're in a jiu-jitsu class, try it out. If you're worried about safety, you can do butt scooting if you don't like the takedowns, but do 5-on-5 jiu-jitsu, okay? And a tap means you're out. If you tap out, you have to go sit out. And the last team standing wins. It's submission grappling, right? So no striking. And try it out in your gym. It's a really fun drill, right? If you can roll with a little bit of control, you're going to be fine. If you're a bunch of spazzy, crazy white belts, maybe not. But go try it out. The strategy to win that, just dogpile the weakest, wimpiest white belt of them all. Take him out quick. Everybody else, even if they're a bunch of black belts, if you have 5-on-4, you can win every time. Now, there's a guy in the comments. I think he's thinking about fighting multiple opponents when you're just one guy. Let's talk about this a bit, because I got this really long comment. Man, I'm almost out of battery, and for some reason my charger isn't working. So we might black out. We might cut out on the stream at any moment right now. But let's end the stream talking about multiple opponents. So I got this message, very long, wordy message from a Wing Chun instructor who was very angry and verbose. And he basically said, you don't understand the streets, and you don't understand the difference between sport fighting and street fight. All this nonsense that people always say to me for some reason. I don't know why I attract all these weirdos to my channel who say this. But he gave me a list, his street fighting resume, gave me this badass street fighting resume, photo streets, yo. And basically said, in my martial art, we train to defeat multiple opponents, and you can't do that, but I can. And he said, I could not do what you do and beat a guy in the cage or in the ring, but I can beat multiple armed attackers on the streets. And I'm like, explain to me how that works. How is it that a guy who admittedly cannot beat a single unarmed attacker in hand-to-hand combat is supposed to use his bare hands to beat multiple armed attackers? How does that work? It doesn't. Cliff's Notes. It doesn't. It's a bunch of nonsense. That's pure power fantasy. That's what we were talking about before. The power fantasy of the self-defense industry, because it's filled with bozos like this who tell you this nonsense like, well, the streets are different than the cage because the laws of physics no longer apply, and some out-of-shape bozo like me can magically defeat 16 dudes with guns and knives and chains and bricks in their hands. No, you can't. No, you can't. One dude that you probably underestimate. Bob from marketing at work would probably kick your butt, dude. People do not understand how difficult fighting is. Fighting an evenly matched opponent. Fighting a reasonably healthy human being with zero training. Now, some guys are pushovers. Psychology, this plays a big a big part of this. Some guys, you give them a little bit of violence and they crumple, but a lot of guys don't, man. Not everybody's the same. And if you have a guy who is willing to attack you on the streets or anywhere or in a cage fight or anywhere, he's not going to be a pushover, man. Somebody is dropping vegan propaganda on the chat saying, go vegan. Go vegan. Now, nothing against vegans. If you're vegan, that's great, but I can give you a lot of reasons not to. A lot of very good reasons not to. Veganism is a first world luxury. Some guys riffing on one of the nicknames I've been given on this channel. Hater Sensei Grandmaster Chosen One. Someone says, if you are the Chosen One, then you have plot armor. Okay, guys. Maybe I'll take one more question. Dennis has vegan powers. Awesome. Hope it works out for you. Yeah, man, if your diet works for you, if it gives you the result you want, that's the right way, man. That's the right way. And if it's not the right way. So I could give you lots of reasons to be vegan. The vegans could give you lots of reasons to be vegan. I could tell you how it's destroying the earth. They could tell you how it's saving the earth. And we could contradict each other all day. But at the end of the day, what goes into your mouth, as the Apostle Paul wrote, is not what makes or breaks a man. That is not what makes you pure or clean or holy. What comes out of your mouth is actually more important. Do I think MMA could work as a high school team sport? I don't like the idea of high schoolers competing in MMA. I don't. I don't like the idea of teenagers competing in MMA, and I'll tell you why. Because your brains have not completely developed yet, and they will not until your early to mid-20s. And everybody should train. Teenagers should train. They should learn jiu-jitsu. They should learn the fundamentals of striking. They should not be taking hard hits to the head. They really shouldn't. So I don't know. I'm going to segue into something I've been thinking about. You might have heard about